everyone, it's I, Wacky Anime What If here to present you with What If Issei Had Snapped His Limiter, Part 6. Let's go ahead and get into it. Currently, Issei Hyodo is outside the ORC room, viewing it through the woods. Looking directly in it, seeing Surzex, Michael, and some of his guards, along with the ORC. Obviously, them sitting in the chairs and all talking, probably about him. So all that Issei does is pull out a button from his side pocket and presses it. POV change. Currently, Akino, Rias, and the rest of the ORC, along with Surzex and Michael, are all talking about how to deal with Issei since he's the new threat now. Considering Issei has the sacred gear, he should be a huge threat. But, well, that's not even the problem. The problem is what other power surfaced. And Rias is trying to talk about how to take and extract the power between all of the factions. Except for the Fallen faction. Apparently there's a new leader. And we don't even know who the leader is what Surzex says. And the leader refused to appear. I mean, can't really blame them. After all, what we all did to the last leader, they all start laughing, while Issei's clenching his fist, listening in through Konoko's ears. Immediately, Issei, who has the earbuds in, listening through Konoko's ears and senses, decides, maybe I should press the button one more time for extra measure. He presses the button one more time, POV change. While they're talking about this, and immediately thinking about how to capture Issei, Michael says, well, we could just do an ambush around Kyo. I mean, he's going to appear sometime. I mean, he's going to want revenge, most likely, knowing how simple-minded he is. Konoko immediately gets up out of the chair, and Michael, Surzex, and Rias' barrage are wondering why she just got out of the chair. That's so disrespectful to the two leaders in front of her. While Rias just looks at Konoko and asks, "Are you feeling okay?" Konoko walks towards Rias with blank eyes and says, "Issei Hyodo has sent you a message." Everyone in the room gets shocked and starts to gasp. And immediately, Surzex and Michael blast their energy upwards. Their power is rising, but Konoko doesn't pay any mind to it and just says, the message is, you may try to stop me, you may try to kill me, you may try to break me, but in the end, I am inevitable, and I will be coming for you. Raise your defenses. Raise as many recruits as you can. Bring as many Devil Kings or Archangels as possible. But just know, everything is pointless. And everything that's going to happen is inevitable. You'll never be able to stop it. Including this, as Konoko runs towards Rias, opens her arms up, and latches onto her. And immediately, Rias looks at Konoko and is questioning why she's latched onto her, until Rias sees everything flash before her eyes. The time she spent with Issei, the ORC, and her brother. She starts to think, why am I seeing this? While Surzex can feel an energy rise up out of Konoko. It's not devil energy or angel energy or holy or any of that. No, it's a different type of energy. It's like a kinetic explosion. Oh, no. Konoko's currently blowing holes out of her. There's holes opening inside of Konoko. And immediately, the holes burst out of the side of her face. And there's a flame thing going directly out of her left cheek and out of her head. And immediately, Konoko grows bigger and bigger. And then pops with a giant explosion that erupts Rias into it, and Rias alone, because Surzex, just so that he wouldn't get caught in the explosion, put a barrier around his sister, causing a barrier around her sister by pure reflex. causing her to be burnt into charcoal when the smoke from the barrier disappears. Immediately seeing his dead sister, supposedly dead sister, on the ground, burnt like charcoal, skin charred, completely pitch black, and crispy, extra crispy to be exact. And Serzek says, "Issei, I'll kill you." He screams that out very loud. And then he hears a footstep behind him, and he hears a whisper saying, "Oh, you can try." But just like Konako said, "I am." And right when Serzek looks behind him, ends up getting punched directly to the gut, and Issei just whispers into his ear, "Inevitable," in a deep voice, and then just starts to tear out his guts directly out of his stomach, and then plunges his hand directly into Serzek's chest, and doesn't rip it out, just squeezes the heart, causing Serzek not to be able to breathe, while Michael fires a light spear directly at Issei. But all Issei does is look at it and bite the light spear, and it breaks. And Michael's being confused about what just happened. But Issei's just gone now. Because right when the light spear disappears, Issei's gone. And he's trying to find out where he is, but he can't sense him or anything. Before he feels a giant wind pressure behind him. He looks behind him just to see Issei readying a fist directly towards his face. When the punch ends up hitting him, the entire half of Michael's face just gets ripped off. And the thing is, the punch didn't actually hit him. It grazed the left side of his face, and that left side of his face flew off from just the mere wind pressure. Immediately, Michael's on the ground screaming about his beautiful, beautiful face, while Issei just starts big stomping, just big booting him in the face, kicking him over and over in the gut, in the face, and in the nuts. And then Michael feels as if one of the nuts had just went right back inside him. And he starts screaming in even more pain, saying, "My Michael, why would you do such a thing?" And Issei just looks down at him and says, "Well, why would you kill innocent people? Why would you torture me? And why would you agree to that? Huh? Now tell me before I end your pathetic lives." As he says this, Michael can feel impending doom. So can Serzek and everyone else in the room. While Issei says, "I would end you all, but that'd be too easy. I want to see you suffer through absolute hell. I want to drag you to hell itself, burn your skin, torture you in so many different ways, and so many different methods, and then watch you beg for death, and the sweet release of death will never come. And you'll be stuck there for all of eternity, just suffering." Right when he said this, everyone gets chills and goosebumps. Serzek ends up using his destructive energy. Michael on the ground uses his spear. Kiba rushes directly at Issei with sword burst, having 3 swords, 1 in his mouth and 2 in his hands. And Exonovia appears behind him, swinging her giant greatsword right beside him, while Akeno is firing lightning. All of this is going towards Issei, but Issei just sees all this in slow motion. He just takes one step and disappears, but all of the energy impacts and explodes the entire room. While Astia currently has a shield around her, trying to heal Rias's injuries, but just notices every time she tries to heal her, it gets worse. The skin starts to break off whenever she tries to heal her. So Astia just can't heal her. So Astia's trying to stabilize her. She successfully stabilized her, but the explosion made her go back into shock. While this happened, they see absolutely nothing. They see ashes. And right when they see the ashes, Serzek, Akeno, and the rest of her barrage start to cheer. So does Michael. But they notice something. That, where did Akeno go? While Issei has a chair directly behind Sir Zex, and is sitting in it, clapping. Good job, good job. You removed one of the competition for me. You went ahead and killed one of the people that was on my hit list for me. Congratulations, you did my job. Thank you so much. Maybe I should give you a promotion. He starts to say cockily and sarcastically as he laughs. Doesn't laugh like a normal person, but more like a madman. And just starts clapping louder while they ended up looking at him saying, what happened? POV change. 5 minutes ago. Issei was seeing everything going in slow motion, and Akano was the furthest away, so he figured to do a little trick. He immediately used so much speed, he broke the sound barrier, appeared behind her, grabbed her by the back in the neck, and just appeared back in the same spot, placing her directly in the center while just walking away. Because it was so slow, he literally walked away and just was right behind Sir Zex in just an instant. Didn't even have to run or anything. And just pulled up a chair and sat down right behind him and started clapping. POV changed to current. And Issei said, and that's how I got you to blow up your little sister's precious queen. So, any questions, fuckstains? Before I wipe you off the face of the earth? Actually, no, before I make you go through an entire torturous hell? I see nothing, as all of them have their jaws dropped. And Sir Zex says, Michael, we're going to have to use 100% against him. While Issei says, yeah, you know, you two couldn't even fight Orphis or Great Red. What do you think you can fight me for? As they both look at him and say, you're not as strong as them. While Issei says, I beg to fucking differ. I am at least on par with them. At the very least. But no, I could probably flick them out of this goddamn universe or out of existence. You little bitches don't know. I'm not a human no more. I'm essentially a god, and you should bow down before me, he says in a cocky tone. Before he says, you know what, I'm actually kind of bored, so I'll do one last thing before I leave. He teleports behind Sir Zex and pulls directly his wings directly out of his body in a quick motion, and immediately pulling out half of Sir Zex's nerves in his wings, along with the wings themselves. And Sir Zex just starts to scream, while Issei just grabs his neck and crushes his windpipe and throws him on the floor, while appearing behind Michael and doing the exact same thing. And then, before leaving, walking up towards Kiba, who is still on the ground, but currently is unconscious, he immediately puts his hand directly in front of Kiba, and uses a certain spell that he found out. He starts to extract Kiba's sacred gear very painfully, and along with that, Kiba starts to wake up and start screaming. He was knocked out from when Issei appeared at the seat. He knocked him out earlier. He immediately started screaming and waking up, saying, Issei, you don't have to do this. While Issei says, oh, I know, but I want to do this. And rips out his sacred gear, causing Kiba's eyes to dull and his body to go numb. The last thing before he ended up going unconscious and fading from this world was, we shouldn't have messed with Issei. We should have just pretended like we loved him. He said this out loud, while Issei says, no, I would have found out anyway or regardless. So your actions really didn't impact that much. It was Rias's that impacted a lot. As he looks towards the burnt charcoal Rias and walks towards her and starts using healing magic, not to heal her skin, but just to stabilize her enough. Rias opens her eyes and sees Issei above her, and she immediately starts to cry and says, I'll kill you. I'll kill you. She starts screaming it over and over, while Issei just starts clapping and says, well done. Your resolve is like a madman. Huh? What are you going to kill me with? While looking directly into her face. And he says, them burnt-ass titties. Or are you going to go ahead and try to kill me by trying to seduce me? Oh, you can't do that anymore. You're basically burnt marshmallow. Oh, what's wrong? You're being so silent. As Rias is quiet. She just ends up muttering, "I'll kill you," over and over, while Issei says, "I hope I didn't break you too soon. After all, breaking your toys on the first try." Well, that's quite upsetting, as he disappears and appears right back at his penthouse. And that's where I'm going to end What If Issei snapped his limiter, part 6. If you want another part, you got to reach up to 1,000 views. Mainly because that's going to be a new rule. I know most people probably won't like this rule. Well, this more of a quota. Is if it reaches up to 1,000, then it continues another part. It'll appear in the poll at least once. After like a few months, it'll at least appear in the poll at least once. It might not appear in the instant poll like immediately, but it'll appear. And I hope you all enjoyed. Goodbye.